Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 online action. We're here with Kholek, Big Papa Kholek, and the Warriors of Chaos going to be taking on the fair Bretonnians. So let's go ahead and get to the army compositions. I say fair Bretonnians, there's actually only a couple units of knights, and the rest are filthy infantry. So we'll get back to these guys in just a second. In terms of my army composition, I've got Kholek, Sun Eater, a whole mess of Chaos Marauders and Chaos Warriors with halberds. Let's see here. Summoners of Rage, a very strong regiment of renown, particularly in this matchup with their magic damage, anti-large armor piercing, going to be really good against things like Grail Knights or anyone with the Blessing of the Lady. For that matter, Shadow Sorcerer with Melkos, Mystifying Miasma, Enfeebling Foe, and Pit of Shades. We've got a unit of Chosen with halberds protecting the Regiment of Renown Hell Cannon here, the Soul of Damnation. That's pretty much it for my build. Relatively straightforward anti-Bretonnia build. In terms of what my opponent's brought here, he's brought an old school peasant horde, which I haven't seen in quite some time. Since Foot Squires have got cheaper, I am seeing this type of build more commonly nowadays, but yeah, we've got front line men-at-arms, no shields, second line of foot squires, a couple of peasant bowmen with fire arrows. We've got two spearmen-at-arms and a these are actually the beast slayers of of Bastogne. He's got one field trebuchet, the Knights of the Lion-Hearted, Lewin Leoncoeur being supported by a paladin. So this is actually a very strong goon squad on the ground. Lewin himself has pretty good combat stats, doesn't have the best AP values actually, only 150 AP, but he does have a Blessing of the Lady, which gives him base 20% physical resistance. When he's with the Paladin, he's also got the 18% from the Guardian, bringing him up to 38% total physical resistance, which is quite tanky against non-magic attacks. He's also got the Ladies Champion, of course, Beloved Son. The rest of his items here, Lion Shield and Sword of Couronne. The Paladin, of course, does have Anti-Large. Looks like he's been kitted out as well with Foe Seeker, Deadly Onslaught, and the Charmed Shield, which should make him a bit tankier as well. The Paladin himself does have Anti-Large and about 135 armor piercing, so not that much further off from where Lewin's armor piercing is, and not that much further off in terms of stats as well, about 10 to 15 lower in terms of the attack and defense. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the Bretonnian build. So without further ado, let's kick the battle into full gear. And yeah, you can see we're going to be opening up some shots with the Hell Cannon here. We're going to be going straight into these Foot Squires, obviously since the Knights are out of range. That's actually the first shot I've managed to connect. The Hell Cannon seems to be having some issues, even this Regiment of Renown Hell Cannon, making solid contact with this unit of Foot Squires here, even though they're moving relatively slowly. You saw that overshot, did actually catch a couple of those peasant arrows, but yeah, I'm really not overly pleased. It's actually hitting this gap between the two units quite frequently. Did clip another unit model there, but not exactly what I was looking for. So we're actually going to switch over to this unit of Knights of the Lion-Hearted as soon as they come into range here. Of course, Regiment of Renown Knights going to be more valuable than any of the peasants I could shoot at on the ground. So yeah, we're going to pop shots into them, and we actually do make some solid contact there. Take out about two of the unit models there. And yeah, Hell Cannon I found actually pretty decent at shooting at cavalry with its tracking. And yeah, I'm able to make solid contact. So yeah, can't shoot at moving infantry, but somehow can shoot at cavalry that's running at a side strafe. Anyway, we're going to have Kholek go in for a little bit of a disruption charge here. Since my opponent really doesn't have that much mobility to respond, and I'm zoning these Knights of the Lion-Hearted out pretty well with my Hell Cannon, Kholek's going to run in here to smash some peasants, just to teach them their lot in life, which I'm sure, Lewin approves of this to some extent. But he is going to come in here and try and put a stop to this. Obviously, I don't want Kholek fighting this one-on-one. The goon squad of Lewin and this paladin can actually take Kholek one-on-one, I do believe. I wouldn't doubt that, so I don't really want to find out, so we're going to go ahead and pop Enfeebling Foe here, pull back a bit, and actually sort of Crone going down as well, debuffing Kholek's melee defense, which is very nicely played there. You can see Lewin is going to start to take some hits there, but Kholek also taking some pretty substantial damage as well. Hell Cannon shot coming in. We've got the mainline engagement generally getting underway here. The Marauder is going to be mixing it up with, they'll obviously cut through the Peasants. The Foot Squires will be a little bit tougher, but Marauders actually trade reasonably cost-effective cost effectively with foot squires, but I kind of baited a little bit of an engagement here where we pulled these Knights of the Lionhearted in and then just dropped an overcast Pit of Shades right on top of this hill, which did a devastating amount of damage, actually enough to rout off those Knights of the Lionhearted when combined with the Soul of Damnation. Also did a ton of damage to the foot squires, another unit standing in that pocket, so quite happy with the performance of overcast Pit of Shades in this particular battle. I need to mess around with it a little bit more against Bretonnia, but you can see unfortunately this Paladin does get terrified away. The Summoners of Rage supporting here with the Chaos Warriors with Halberds, going to be pretty tough for this Goon Squad to crack. I mean, one-on-one they could definitely take on Kholek, but with all this support around, it's going to be tough, and the Peasant support is just not providing what it needs to. Lewin's managed to get isolated on the other side of the line from his own troops, which is very, very bad. You can see him starting to pull away here, but the further he pulls back and away from his troops, that's going to just isolate him more and more. So you can see pushing through on many fronts. Balance power looking a little bit rough for my opponent at this point, but yeah. Hell Cannon racking up kills quite quickly. Now we've got it mostly focused on the Foot Squires, since Foot Squires will actually trade pretty cost effectively against Chaos Warriors with Halberds. Chaos Warriors with Halberds do have better stats all around, and even their weapon damage is slightly less actually, but the anti-infantry bonus obviously factors in hugely there. Let's see, a +9 anti-infantry bonus, so even then that only puts them to about, 34 melee attack against 38 melee defense. Even then they probably still won't make that great of contact, but, you know, they'll trade cost effectively, certainly, considering they're 200 points cheaper than those Warriors with Halberds. But my opponent doing a great job focus firing here. I honestly think that the poison arrows would have been a bit better, just because there's nothing on the Chaos roster besides Chaos Trolls that is particularly weak to fire damage. So I think if my opponent had brought the poison arrows, it would have been a lot more effective because he'd be debuffing all the units in his pocket as well. But you can see Kholek actually having to pull back there, taking a lot of damage from the Beast Layers and from the Heroic Core of Bretonnia. The Paladin came back from his terror route and going to be helping out Lewin here, trying to take down these Summoners of Rage. But they're just such a powerful regiment of renown, especially in this particular matchup. Ooh, looks like Lewin actually just struck one down there. But despite Lewin and this Paladin's heroic stand here, Lewin's actually at his healing cap, and the Bretonnian infantry is just gone. They've just been run over by the Halberds and the Marauders, and the Hell Cannons racked up a ton of kills as well, up to 183 so far. Trebuchet really hasn't provided that much. Has been able to fire the whole time, but only 10 kills, and just really hasn't been able to do the damage that it needed to, although he is focusing on this unit of Chosen with Halberds now, which of course is a very solid pick, a very high value unit, but at this point there's just too little left on the Bretonnian side of the field to take things back. Lewin getting surrounded by Halberds, and Summoners of Rage desperately trying to pull loose from this engagement here, whereas on the other side, the Damsel coming in to support these Foot Squires against these Marauders. These Marauders will actually probably lose out here, especially with the Knights of the Lionhearted getting in there, what few of them remain. Ooh, looks like the Paladin's coming in as well, and here comes Lewin leading the Pain Train coming on the far side there, with the Summoners of Rage leading the way. Kholek himself also going to be making another timing push here, so yeah, you can see those Knights of the Lionhearted, man, they're in the wrong neighborhood. Kholek going to be dropping a Lord of the Storm on top of these Foot Squires, and then coming in to apply some terror himself. So a very cool cinematic shot of the Thunder King. I guess, is he the Thunder King? I actually don't know. Mountain God, I guess is his title. But anyway, you can see at this point, yeah, things are getting desperate. We're down to the last minute or so of the battle, so let's soak up some more cinematics here of Lewin and his Paladin making their final stand here with the Foot Squires. It's just not quite going to be enough against these Summoners of Rage, and honestly, I think the Summoners of Rage could use a bit of a nerf, whether that comes in the form of a price increase or a slight stat nerf. They're just such a strong regiment of renown in so many matchups, and they're really hard for some factions to deal with, especially when you combine them with Kholek. It just gives you so much anti-large armor piercing power, and Chaos is one of those factions that isn't lacking for elite anti-large armor piercing. They've got, you know, Chosen with Halberds, which for a long time weren't viable whatsoever, but now are extremely strong. Regular Dragon Ogres are quite strong. They've got Shaggoths, Kholek himself, regular Chaos Warriors with Halberds. They've got the Summoners of Rage here, of course. Just a lot of anti-large options for the Warriors of Chaos, and it makes this matchup one of the tough ones for Bretonnia. I actually think Bretonnia is quite a bit better in this last patch. I still need to get a feel for where they're at, but the buff, the price reduction, I should say, to the Foot Squires definitely helps in certain matchups, and I see kind of what my opponent was going for here. Unfortunately, he just didn't quite have the answer for the Hell Cannon. You can see 227 kills all said and done. Most of those coming against the Peasants, but yeah, that's a lot of Peasants, a lot of Foot Squires. And yeah, the Marauders, you can see, did okay in the front line. Honestly, didn't do amazing at the end of the day. Same thing with the Halberds. Like, they did all right, cut through a lot of men-at-arms, but the Foot Squires will give them a little bit more trouble. But yeah, my opponent, I think, just didn't bring enough cavalry. Granted, I had so much anti-large. It's tough to know how to go with Bretonnia, and I need to do a bit of theory crafting myself, maybe trying some different things out, but that Lewin and Paladin Goon squad was pretty decent, and it's probably not that expensive as well. We can check that in just a moment, but yeah, Knights Lion-Hearted had a pretty tough time there against the Hell Cannon and just all those anti-large troops. We also dropped that Overcast Pit of Shades, able to get some kills for the Shadow Sorcerer here. 72 on those Summoners of Rage. Again, such a strong unit, man. I really can't stress enough how powerful these guys are. So, yeah, Lewin and that Paladin, I'm just curious how much that actually is to run them both together. I definitely think that the Paladin is potentially going to be helpful in this matchup to help take down things like Shagos in particular. But let's just look out of curiosity on horseback. How much are these guys? So if we take Lewin on a barded warhorse, which I don't even know why Lewin has the ability to go on foot. I don't know why you would ever even consider doing that. But anyway, one thing to note about Lewin on a horse is he doesn't have a whole lot of HP, which means his healing cap's going to be relatively low. I'll usually cut Beloved Son of Bretonnia and Foe Seeker. I know my opponent didn't, but this is what I would do if I was going to put Lewin on a horse, although I probably wouldn't ever. Paladin will also go on a horse, of course, and I'll probably cut Foe Seeker. Deadly Onslaught might be a little bit more useful to have, particularly for the charge bonus buff. And, of course, Guardian's the whole reason we're taking him. I'll leave the other abilities at home. So this is, what, about 3,000 points worth of character, and this is even stripped down from what my opponent had, so it may be worth looking at. It does get substantially more expensive if you put everybody up on the Griffin. Now you're looking at almost 4,000 points worth of character, which is even more. But this is going to be a pretty strong Goon squad, and I'd be curious to see if you were to dive these two onto Kholek, how much more damage they would do just because of their charge bonus going up. Like the Paladin, for example, has 15 more charge bonus up on the Pegasus, has less armor, but Lewin, of course, has substantially more charge bonus. Actually, it's the same. Wow, 75. Of course, his weapon strength goes to mostly armor piercing. He does get a lot more HP and some other benefits, of course, from being on Beaky here, but yeah, let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. Interesting battle, interesting showcase of the Paladin and Lewin. They do quite well together, but I just don't know that my opponent's build was necessarily ideal. If I had to kind of theory craft a way to take down what I had, the Foot Squires are a pretty good option. I'd probably go with the Beast Slayers as well. I'm going to go with Spearmen at Arms with shields. They are a bit more expensive, but I guess you could always go with just regular Spearmen at Arms without the shields. They do have less melee defense, but they're a bit cheaper. So that would give you some meat for the potatoes. I'm going to forego the Field Trebuchet this time. I mean, it can be a pretty decent pick, but if your opponent has artillery advantage like I did there, it can potentially be rough. Now, with these guys up in the air here, we've got Lewin and the Paladin. I may honestly look at doing something like a bit of a monster mash strategy. I actually haven't tried this, so take this with a huge grain of salt. This is totally theory crafting, but I just wonder how it would be to have Royal Hippogriff Knights running with Lewin and the Paladin, and everybody come in on an alpha strike. Like, you can just delete a unit of halberds before they have a chance to really get attacks back. Maybe something like this would be pretty decent, and then you could support with some additional cheaper cavalry, like maybe you grab Knights Lion-Hearted, not a terrible pick in this matchup. Maybe you grab them, and maybe the Companions of Quenelle. We're actually lacking a caster, so you would need to cut some cost to find a caster somewhere. So, yeah, just out of curiosity, Damsel Lore of Life on a horse, how much would we actually need to cut? to be able to bring 700. So yeah, we'd actually have to cut something quite substantial here. We also don't have a Grail Relic, so already I'm starting to see some issues. The infantry corps is relatively thin, so maybe we don't go quite so heavy on the cavalry. Let's actually cut the Knights Lion-Hearted, and then that is going to give us the points for the Damsel, and we also almost have enough for the Grail Relic. We're super close to the Grail Relic, so I might come in here and like cut Deadly Onslaught for the Paladin, or, you know, maybe I cut something else. You definitely want the Ladies Champion, so yeah, let's cut that, and that'll give us the funds we need to bring that Grail Relic. And yeah, at this point, you can run up some other guys. I don't know that, again, take this with a grain of salt. I haven't actually tried this build, but just kind of spitballing here, just kind of theory crafting a little bit to see maybe this would work against Chaos. I would have to try. Of course, you could always go with something with the Fanchantress, though she's a bit riskier. I haven't tried running her with the Paladin as protection, but I imagine that would be okay. But yeah, let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. What's been your experience if you've played games as Bretonnia against Chaos in this current patch, and what do you have to recommend to our fellow players? Let me know in the comments down below. Hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button, so every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thank you once again for watching, and we'll see you next time.